Welcome, everybody, today to the Music with Flavor Food for Thought podcast. I have a very special guest today to have a candid discussion on the music industry and marketing. So my guest today essentially has helped creatives in areas of entrepreneurship, marketing, and various areas of the music business. The founder of the Bassline Group, and many may know her for her work with Mathew Knowles, so Beyonce's father there. So I'd like to give a warm welcome to Patrice Cokley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. No, I'm glad to have you out here today. So in terms of, this discussion, I mean, let's start things off for people who may not know what the Bassline Group is, essentially.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the Bassline Group in a nutshell is a talent management and development company. So I like to say that I help artists go from point A to maybe G.
Okay.
Basically helping develop them as not only as artists or entertainers, but as entrepreneurs, especially given, the climate that we're in a very independent time. And I've always thought this, because I started the Bassline Group back in 2014, but I've been an entrepreneur since the last time we had an economic issue. So this is 2007 and 8 was when I became an entrepreneur. So I've always thought I always had an entrepreneurial mindset. So I wanted to start a company focusing on my industry of passion that not only focused on the art, but focused on the business as well.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, that's awesome. I think you bring up a great point that artists need to obviously look at themselves as a business and small business, if that is, and making sure that they're moving towards that direction. It's not just about the music, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when it comes to the Bassline Group or just in general, and you're working with artists, what are some things that you're looking for in an artist in this day and age?
Quite a bit. I actually did a video on Instagram where I talked about it in under 60 seconds. But the top 4 things that I typically look for, I'm gonna try to remember them because it varies. Definitely talent. I look for talent. And when I say talent, I mean something that catches my ear or my eye. And when I look at talent, I don't look at it from a personal standpoint. My interests may be different from someone else, but I look at marketability though. All right, you're talented, but is it something that would resonate with, people out in the world, because there's a lot of artists that make music for themselves, but it may not be marketable on a bigger level to where we can actually market it and make money from it. So I look at talent. I have to be a fan of your work. Since I'm going to be your number one advocate, I have to be a fan of it. Marketability, work ethic. Work ethic is a big one. I've had situations where I've outworked the artist and I'm like, no, this is your career. This is your face, your name out in the forefront, not mine. So it's no, you have to, you're basically like a politician. You got to go out here and kiss babies and shake hands, So, I definitely look for work ethic. And then I look for, if they're likable, I have to like you at the end of the day. Because we're going to be working together. I'm very hands-on with my artists. Even if I'm not physically hands-on, I'm still hands-on from a distance. I work with a couple artists now who are not in the country. And even them, I'm hands-on, because we got all this technology. We can talk, we can Skype, we can Zoom, we could, text each other. So it's I have to like you as a person because I'm going to be working with you. So I would say those are the major things that I look for.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. You bring up a cool topic in terms of, Zoom and, not necessarily having to be right beside the person that you're working with. How would you say that your focus has shifted given the pandemic and maybe plans that you might have had before to now? And how was that kind of worked out? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, pre-pandemic, it was we focused on, with one of the artists here that I work with locally, we really focused on, we were trying to do a lot more shows. You know,
Right.
we had a lot of different, you know, we actually went on a radio press tour with his latest release at that time. So we had all these connections. We built all these relationships. We were fostering these relationships. So we were like, yeah, 2020, it is on and popping. We had a rollout plan. We're going to do these live shows and make it an intimate setting. We had the whole nine. And then,
Right.
you know, around this time last year, it was like, no, that's not going to happen. So
Right.
since then, we've been putting out content. You know, with him, he's been, you know, really on it as far as like putting out videos, making sure he was releasing music on a regular basis, just keeping his social media and everything active and whatnot. And what's funny was that, like, I'm going to give him a little credit on this. His name is Ken the Messenger, too, by the way.
Okay.
I'm going to give him a little credit on this. Last year was tough for a lot of people, even myself. So I had went through, you know, a down period. And this is why I look for work ethic, because there may be times where I may be going through something and you have to pick up the slack. And that's what he did. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was going through some stuff, but he realized this is still my career, whether Patrice is sick or not, you know what I'm saying? Or going through something or not. This is still my career. And he took his career in his own hands and still, you know, got my opinion on some things and whatnot. But he went ahead and did that. So, yeah, that was during pandemic, but post pandemic, we're still in it, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like this, you know, a lot of Zooming, a lot of more content. You know, we're releasing an album, an LP. It's like 11 songs. A couple of them are intros and whatnot, and some were released as singles prior. So we're releasing that. We're releasing a lot of content, a lot of music videos, stuff to just keep people engaged online until things open back up. When things open back up, different story. But yeah, right now is all about just, you know, feeding the people online and keeping them engaged and interactive.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Would you say that there's any like opportunities that kind of arise that maybe that door wouldn't have opened if the pandemic didn't happen?
Yeah, I would say from a financial standpoint, for sure. Because there's you know, if you're registered and set up as a business like I am, and artists, you guys can do this as well. You know, you like I always say, you have to think of yourself as a business, and because of that, you can register yourself as a business, as an LLC or DBA or whatnot. And as a result of the pandemic, there's been a lot of funding out there. You know, we're talking about grants, loans, a couple extra dollars just to help you get by. You know what I'm saying? So from a financial standpoint, I would say the pandemic helped because there's just been a lot of money thrown around here in the U.S. For that. I would also say something else that came out of it was just shift of mindset. The shift of mindset. Because before, a lot of people, I don't want to be online. I don't want to do this online. They weren't consistent on social media and all this other stuff. But now you don't have a choice. So I feel like the shift in mindset of seeing how, you know, we have this tool, let's use it. You know, I think that definitely helped. And then I was able to partner with the biggest thing of last year that came out of all this I was able to partner with Symphonic Distribution, which is a big distribution company here. They operate globally, really, but they're based in Tampa, Florida. And I was able to work out a deal with them through my company. So anybody that I'm developing or I bring onto my roster, we can distribute to them, and they help with playlisting. They help with video distribution and some other stuff that they offer as well. So I was able to make that, solidify that. But that's pretty much it as far as the things that came out of, you know, the pandemic. Right.
No, that sounds pretty exciting. And like, I know a lot of people see it as a negative, and I think a lot of it is, but there's silver linings in some ways too. And like you touched on as well, like these tools that are here that keep popping up. I think there's more and more that artists have to learn from how to utilize and implement. I think that's another topic of, what how we utilize these tools too. I remember reading on your website that you focus on making an impact, not chasing clout. And I really like that statement. In terms of, there's a lot of stuff going on that, I mean, from a music standpoint, that people are trying to get attention. There's so many people out there, right? Maybe touch on that and what you feel, you know, as more people enter the music world and simply trying to pursue a career. Do you feel that they're sometimes doing it for the wrong reasons, or, you know, what would you say about that on the clout chasing side of things?
I would say my position on this shifted a little bit. Just a little bit. Just a teeny bit. What I mean by that was, I've always been about making an impact, and I'm still about that, you know, about, you know, making an impact. And even the artists, I think they should focus on that as well, being impactful, creating music that's going to resonate with people outside of it just sounding good or you looking good, but actually have a message, have a story that resonates with the people, that is consistent with your branding, the whole nine. To me, that's being impactful. Now, when we talk about clout chasing now, I just recently did a press run. I hired a publicist for to help with the announcement of me partnering with Symphonic. Working with her changed my mindset on getting attention. Right. Now, I will say, and this trips me out because I've always, like, I've had periods where, you know, business and being an entrepreneur, things ebb and flow. You know, they go up and down. It's literally like that. Like, we see all these memes. It's literally like that. You have high moments, you have down moments. Right. And I recall, like, in my career, out of, you know, however many years, that is 12, 13 years of entrepreneurship, I've noticed that people will pop up and come around and support you when you have stuff going on. When you show that, you know, you're out here moving and shaking, when you standing next to certain people and all this other stuff. Like, when I landed Mathew Knowles as a client, oh my God. And it tripped me out. It shocked me at first. Mind you, this was about 4 years ago when I first landed him. I think 4 years ago. But with him, I just felt like I'm the same person. I'm the same person prior to me working with him. I'm the same person afterwards. But working with him, it kind of elevated me a little bit. Right. And that's the stuff that, like, I struggled with that personally. So when I landed the partnership and was working with the publicist, the same thing happened. All these articles were coming up. I was on Mediums, The Source, and I'm like, oh my God. And people, like, the attention from it. I'm like, this is insane. Like, you know, like it messes with your mind. So I understand how artists that's why I say with artists, like, don't rush to fame, because it can really mess your mind up. It can mess your whole brain all the way up. So for me, I'm just, even now, I'm like, oh my God, I am the same person all these years. But because you see this logo, The Source or Medium or all these platforms, is like, oh, I need to pay attention to her. I'm like, all right. So now when I say my position has shifted, that's what I mean. Don't let the clout chase change you, but leverage it. Use it to get you out in front of more people. That's how I see it. I use the press and all this attention to spread my message even further. It's not changing me. I ain't Hollywood. Somebody said I was Hollywood on Instagram because I ain't answered my DMs, but I clicked on message on his profile. He didn't even send me anything. I'm like, all right, troll, go sit down. But it's like, you have to find that balance. Use the clout chase to bring attention to your message, but don't let it change you. So, yeah. No,
that makes a lot of sense. And that's pretty cool. Like, you know, in the sense of, like, treating yourself as a business from an artist standpoint, and even getting your message out there and stuff like that. It's pretty cool to see how, you know, like you're saying, the mindset changes when you get that attention and some, and it, like you said, it's very easy for someone to take that and not be ready for it too. Right. So it's always interesting in my mind that it's like, I like to tell, you know, say, have a reason for why you're doing things. And I think a lot of things we're chasing, we don't even know why we're chasing it or what that all encompasses. Right. So it's very cool to hear how your perspective is changing, and it is always evolving because everything seems to be changing on a daily basis. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You also mentioned that relationship with Mathew Knowles. So can you, give more perspective on what that experience was like working with him? Yeah. And the projects you guys tapped into there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. It was a really good experience working with him. I have nothing bad to say about that man. Oh, yeah. Despite what the press may say, I just have to put that out there. Despite what the press may have said about him over the years, I've had nothing but a good experience. Even to this day, I'm very grateful for the opportunity that he gave me at the time, because when I reached out to him, I wasn't reaching out to him for a project or for work or money or anything like that. I was looking for advice, because he's older, he's like old enough to be my father. I mean, me and Beyoncé the same age. So it's like, I was looking at him as a potential mentor, because I was going through, just frustration with working in the music industry. And I reached out to him looking for advice. Like, I've done this, I've done that. I got all these letters after my name, and you said this in your book. I am every quality you've listed. I do have the DNA of an achiever, which is the name of his book. He listed all these out. I'm like, that's me. I said, what else can I do? Like, can you give me any advice? And he was like, I would love to talk to you about working with one of my artists. I was like, oh, okay.
There we go.
That's how that happened. And then we scheduled a call. It was me, him, and his director of marketing at the time. It was a 15-minute phone call. And I landed him with a 15-minute phone call.
That's awesome.
Told him what I do. How I can help. All right, cool. How much? Boom. Let's do it. And I worked with him for about 3 years, working with. It started off with a girl group he was working with at the time. They've since disbanded, and now they're a duo in Houston. I worked with them from a social media standpoint, where I came up with their social media strategy, managed their social media, consulted them on their social media as well, because they weren't active as we would have liked to have seen them be active. So I got them on board, and some of the things that I've showed them, they're still using to this day. We're still in contact. I helped with, we branded the group from a visual standpoint, as far as like developing their logo, their website, their entire online presence, just overseeing that. Also worked with another group of his, same thing. And then it carried over to him. So he saw my work with them and was like, all right, Patrice, I would like for you to help me with mine. I said, sure. So I developed his logo that he still uses to this day. Developed a website at that time, a couple of his books, designed those covers. The one that went viral, Racism from the Eyes of a Child, worked on that. I got a credit on the back of that. Nice. So it was just overseeing his social media as well, was able to get him verified on Instagram. And that may not sound like a lot, but it was a big deal for him, because it was challenging. Even given who he is, it was hard to get him verified. So we was able to get that done. So basically, everything that you see now of him online started from me. Like, he didn't have no presence. He had like a private Twitter page. So now he's everywhere. And all that came from me. When his post went viral about the twins and all that, that was me posting. He would call me, Patrice, hey, that day, it was Father's Day. I remember I was at my mom's house on Father's Day at the kitchen table, and he just called me. He was like, hey, Patrice, don't mean to bother you, but I want to put up a post saying happy birthday, twins. I'm like, what? So I'm at the computer at my mom's house on Father's Day, designing this little quick image. I said, how is this? He said, let's do it. Put it up. And it went everywhere. It was all on the news. I'm like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was pretty involved with, establishing his online presence.
That's cool. That's cool. And I feel like with that, is there stuff that you take away from that experience that really sculpted, how you're dealing with artists now, that maybe you wouldn't have from the past if you didn't have that experience?
I would say working with him, not saying that I need this, but working with him validated me a lot, right? Because I was questioning myself quite a bit. And working with him, it was so easy.
Right.
Working with him was so easy. Like, even when I think about it now, I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, it's so easy. Like, he paid on time. Sometimes he paid early. Like, if it was a holiday, we're going to drop it to you. We're going to send this to you on Friday. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was so easy. And I'm just like, okay, this ain't me. Like, this is possible. Like, I could do this, and it don't have to be so hard. I don't have to deal with, people trying to nickel and dime you, or, trying to get free service, or, what I'm saying, trying to get help for free and all this other stuff, and trying to use you, or it don't have to be that way. So working with him validated me in the industry. Like, I can do this, and it doesn't have to be that difficult. So that's what I took away from it. Because it was such a easy, cool experience. Also, one more thing too that came to mind: respect. He respected me. He respected my opinion. And thinking this man has been in all these big rooms in the industry, he would call me and say, "Hey, Patrice, I'm thinking about doing X, Y, and Z. What are your thoughts? What do you think? I want to hear from you." And then he would go and do them. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I would say it was more so just the validation and the fact that it doesn't have to be this hard. So now when I work with people, if they give me a hard time, I don't care where they're at. They could be on TV shows. They could blow up. They could be the next Beyonce. I don't care. If you gave me a hard time, I'll walk away with no hard feelings or nothing. I wish you well. But I'll walk away just from working with him. It definitely opened my eyes to that.
That's awesome. Yeah, no hesitation. And I mean, it's a two-sided coin, right? At the end of the day, it's, I'm working with you, but you got to enjoy, like you're saying, the people you're working with, or, that relationship might fizzle. So you mentioned something that very interesting to me in terms of validation and self-doubt. I think a lot of artists, some are very confident, there's very gamut, but I think someone who's maybe just starting out and I don't know, I know I want to go somewhere, but I don't know where exactly. And I have that self-doubt. What advice do you give to an artist in that regard of, I want to do music. I want to make it, or whatever that is, but I'm not as confident in my abilities. I'm not as confident in what I'm doing. What would you say to an artist in that case?
I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't say anything. I would show them.
Okay.
Because they need to see it. Like, I have artists now, because I used to teach. I taught 3 years at SAE Institute, and I taught in the music business program, and I came across that a lot. A lot of people, they were, a lot of the students, they, doubted themselves. And I showed them, like, we would watch YouTube interviews. Like, I remember we watched Master P on The Breakfast Club. That was class. You know what I'm saying? So it's more so of giving them examples to show them that it's possible. Like, I have an artist now, like, she doesn't doubt herself, but, she's young and she goes through things, she's young. I show her, like, look. It is possible. You have everything that you need to succeed. You just have to do it.
Right.
So I just showed them the possibilities of it. And if I see something in you and I'm working with you, that says a lot in itself, because I don't work with any and everybody. Yeah. So I tend to show them and give them examples. Even my artist Ken, like, he has moments and stuff. And I'll show him other Christian hip hop artists and say, look at this. Your stuff is better than them. This is crazy. We got to go to work, And that gets him. He like, so, I'm motivated and pumped by it. So, I mean, I don't say anything. I just show him. I just show him.
No, that's cool in terms of what you said too, of, you look at other artists, because I think it's so easy to compare, right? And you're saying, okay, my music is better than that person, but maybe you see that this person is maybe in your eyes ahead in whatever they're doing. So what do you speak of in terms of like branding and marketing, especially in today's day and age, right? And we talked about, the press run that you've been on and stuff like that. What is your suggestions to artists in today's day and age in, getting that attention? What methods do you feel actually work and what methods maybe don't in today's day and age?
In today's day and age, I see a mix of things. I'm seeing shock value is working.
Right.
Unfortunately. Yeah. Whether it's good or bad, we see this with Lil Nas X. He got the whole world talking about his craziness. I ain't gonna get into that. I'm not condoning it or anything like that. I'm neutral. I ain't saying anything. Right. But shock value's working, unfortunately. But what's most important though, I feel like you can have shock value, but what are you gonna back that up with?
Right.
For longevity. So that's where I like to come in and focus on. So when we think about branding, I think about what is it about you that makes you unique? What's different about you? Like, do you like video games? What video games do you like? Are you a Trekkie? Are you into TV shows? And it doesn't have to do with the music, but it's like, what is it about you, the person, makes you different from other people? And we're going to create a story or a brand around that and use the music as kind of a marketing tool per se. Right. You know what I'm saying? So I got a video out now where I talked about that, like which one is more important, your brand or your music? And me, honestly, I think it's the brand, because I feel like once once you build your music and your music is set, because artists tend to focus on music all the time. So you're going to get to a point where your music is just top notch to where you can't go any further until you reach another level in the industry. But all right, once you've reached that spot where your music is just the bomb, then what? Let's put more effort into the brand and the story so that way we can get the music out. So that's what I tend to look at it and say, in today's day and age, what is it that's going to make you unique? So that way you can create a story and a message around that to, get your story out there and your music out there.
How much to that point do you put into, how much stock do you put into a target audience or, instead of, a lot of artists want to please everyone and you're saying, I'm trying to go after, I just want everyone to love my music. And if someone doesn't like it, they don't understand that maybe music isn't for them. Your music isn't for them. Or, you think your friends and your family is your audience. So what do you do in terms of that, in terms of trying to identify an artist's target, who they actually need to go after kind of thing?
Sure. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things is, for one, just put the music out and see who gravitates to it first. Right. Because I would rather an artist make music for them that they like, and that is a representation of them, as opposed to making music for the audience. If anything, there should be a balance, because if you're making music for a particular group or a particular segment, it's kind of like you're becoming something that you may not be, you know? Right. So one of the things, like Jay-Z, for example, he made music for, the streets, because that was him. And he saw they were gravitating to it. So it's like, all right, they're gravitating to what I'm putting out. Let's make more of that. So now I know who my audience is. Because it's like, you're not going to know your audience until you put it out there. You're just not going to, you're not going to know, So I think it's a fine line that you have to walk. And you always have to be mindful of that. I think, just speaking of Lil Nas X, I'll talk on this point. One of the things that a lot of people are mad about right now is the fact they're like, okay, your music is for kids. You putting this stuff out and you got the kids watching you perform at the schools and this, and they're singing your music. And he's like, y'all didn't pay attention to the lyrics in Old Town Road. Right. I'm talking about lean and sex and this, and this. But it's like, at some point you have to be responsible though. You know what I'm saying? So that's a perfect example. When he put that song out, I'm sure he did not intend that song to be for kids. It just happened. Exactly. Right. So it's like, now what do? You continue. Do you become a Nickelodeon character, or, creating, you appear on Sesame Street, which I think he may have done. I don't know. But are you going to be the little kid guy, or are you going to be this? So it's like, I think that's the worst case scenario. That is what you don't want. So it's best to put the music out there, see what happens, see who gravitates to it, and then analyze the market so that way you'll know where you need to be. Right.
That makes sense. I think too, like you're saying, is like priming your audience too, I guess, giving them a heads up as to the Nas X situation. Cause even you see with some artists, like maybe an Ariana Grande or something like that before, like didn't swear really in her music and stuff. And now it's kind of a transition as well. So, but I get what you're saying in that term. I know what we're talking about in terms of just putting music out and kind of as a litmus test to see, gauge what's going on. What do you say to the artist that's like, I don't need to worry about branding. I don't need to worry about necessarily, I'll just put my music out and kind of like, build it and they'll come, if that makes sense.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
I mean, because we've seen that, and they've been one-hit wonders.
Right.
They've been one-hit wonders. Like, not saying that they're not out there. The one guy that comes to mind, the Panda, that song, like from his name. Designer. Yeah, where is he? Okay. And I'm sure he's probably still making music, but he's not at the top.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? He's not out there like he was before, and he built his career off that one song. I think one of the good things, I'll say this too about Lil Nas, is that he's keeping the people talking. He didn't just disappear with Old Town Road, We're still seeing him, but it's like, like, wait a minute. But that's a really stark example. It's like, all right, if you want to do that, good luck. Like, literally, you're going to need luck at that point, because it's like, are you going to be a one-hit wonder? Or if you do become a one-hit wonder, then what? What's the backup plan? Because some people get a hit just to, improve their lifestyle, just to get out the hood, Some people do that, and that's okay, but it really depends on that artist. Like, what is your end game? Right. What's the end game?
Right. And like you're saying with like shock value and all that, what do you think is like, I don't want to say ethical, because I mean, it's a fine line, I think, but how does an artist, create that shock value in a sense that, keeps longevity, that I know it's probably an open-ended question, tough to answer, but that people are actually buying tickets, right? People are actually buying your merch. Like, how do you cultivate that shock value, but remain with tenure, so it's not like you're that fall off, if that makes sense. What's your,
It's tough. It's tough. The only person that I can think of that has tenure and some shock value, somewhat of a shock value, is Beyonce.
Okay.
And her shock value is very tame. Her shock value is her presence. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, she's here.
Right.
That's the shock value. Like, she's the only person I can really think of, like, off the top of my head, that has longevity, but also shock value. Right. Yeah, because I mean, she can do something very little and it cause an uproar. The elevator, Jay-Z cheating, and I mean, I'm pregnant. Oh wow, big deal. But even with her, just going back to the brand thing, she had a brand since the beginning. Right. She had a story, and it always carried out in her music since pre-Destiny's Child to now. Right. So
it's important.
It's very important. Very important.
Right. Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, you talk about that, like just the presence. Like, I remember I was watching a clip on Instagram, and it was just like old school, like vintage Michael Jackson concert, and they're like carrying people out, like fainting. Like, I was just like, you don't have that anymore. Like, people aren't fainting at shows.
Exactly. Shout out to the Virgos. Right. I know what you're talking about. They was like, who does this now? Like, who can just hop off the stage and just stand there? And people are fainting, like, before the concert start. Like, you just wasted your money. You famous, and the concert haven't even started yet.
Exactly, right?
That's some Virgo stuff right there. Shout out to the Virgos. Yep.
100%. Yeah. So I'd say looking into like the future, like what would be your predictions in terms of, where the music industry is going, maybe given the pandemic, given, just new technology that keeps popping up. Like, what do you think things are going in terms of that? Yeah.
Definitely new technology, because we see that's the only thing we can somewhat rely on. Right, I still think one day, like all this stuff, because I'm the type where I don't want to rely too much on technology. That's just me. That's just old school me. But I'm like, at the same time, we don't have a choice. It is the future. I just don't like people having so much control over things. Like someone could literally just flip a switch and all this stuff shuts down.
Gone.
Like that is scary to me. But we don't have a choice. That's the future. So I definitely see going forward new technology. And because of that, artists should be able to leverage that, however that may look like, the program that we're using here. I didn't know anything about this until you mentioned it. This is a new platform, Zoom, they're blowing up because of what happened. They're experiencing a huge success. Twitch, artists are doing well on Twitch, doing live shows and things of that nature. So I just see just new technology popping up that artists can leverage. But because of that, we have to keep in mind that there's no shows. Like I don't foresee shows and live music going back to how it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
in what way? Like
it's not going to be 10,000 people in a outside standing shoulder to shoulder. I don't foresee that tomorrow.
Well, yeah.
I mean, maybe down the road, maybe 5 years from now, when there's like no cases of corona.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like maybe then, and that takes time to weed through the world, just like any other diseases or illnesses that we've had, chicken pox and stuff. There's vaccines for that, but we don't hear about that stuff now. Right. So it's gonna take time to get to that point. So I feel like if anything, it'll be like little pods, live shows will be, you come with your group and you guys are sitting in your own section, bubbled off from everything. It'll be something like that. But even still, you won't be able to pack a venue, and get all that money that you're used to getting like before. So I think that's a shift. So because of that, a lot of artists have to think of other ways of making money. Right. Like I think shows and the merch, all that's cool, but it's like, how many hoodies and t-shirts can you have? Right. What I'm saying? I love supporting artists, but now I don't even want to buy nothing because I'm like, I don't have any more space for t-shirts and hoodies. I don't even wear the stuff. I got stuff still in packs. So, so it's like you can only sell so much merch. You just got to be, innovative in a sense. You got to think of something different to keep people engaged. This is why you see a lot of artists are, they're getting into acting or, they're doing other stuff, they're doing commercials or making music for commercials and getting into sync and things like that, because it's going to be tough, it's going to be tough.
Right. And I think that comes back to the whole point of music just being a tool, right? I think before I've had this conversation that it's, music used to be, for some people, like all you did, right? It was just like the forefront, right? But the brand deals that people are a part of and, they're maybe making more money off of those things as opposed to just the music itself. So it is very interesting to see. Like I kind of personally felt like, maybe down the road, like, people are going to be invigorated to get back to those live performances. But I see what you're saying, like the changes that are coming, like, you can't really foresee that for a while, maybe. Right. And does it go back to the normal, like a pod of a show seems so different than what it used to be, was, shoulder to shoulder. So,
and then on top of that too, you don't know, like, will people like that? Will people enjoy that the same? Like it may last for so long, just like Versus and watching, the verses online, we're just like, all right, now what? You know?
Right.
Like, it was hot in the beginning, but that it could fade away.
Right.
That's how I look at it. And then by the time that we may get back to that point, you're going to have a whole other generation of artists that may flourish at that point. So it's like, what's going to happen to those that are trying to get on now?
Right.
You know, so it's like, it's a lot of those things we have to think about.
Right. And I think a lot of these, like I've seen a couple, there's like a Cadenza, I think, and Happen, I believe, that is kind of, they're creating these live performance type things, like kind of like Twitch, but it's more kind of exclusive that I've noticed. And it is kind of cool how they're creating those environments. But to me, I think it's still like, I want to be at a live show, right? So,
I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, they have things where it's like people are paying like $500 just to be a VIP. We're not in the same room, but we're doing a live, right? So I think that's cool in that regard. But like you're saying, it's just still so many unknowns as we move forward here for sure.
Right.
Is there anything else that maybe we haven't asked you that we should have asked you, or cool experiences that you haven't touched on yet?
No, I mean, I think you've asked some really good questions. Yeah, you've asked some really good questions. I think we covered pretty much a lot, which is good and different. It was different. Cool. Yeah. So versus the typical questions that you get, how long have you been doing it? Where are you from? We went deep. So you caused me to think. So I like that. Those some good questions.
That's good. Jump to the meat of it for sure.
For sure.
Well, yeah. No, I appreciate your time today. It's been a great chat. Where can our listeners, connect with you online, or even begin the process of working with you, if that's a possibility?
The best place to connect with me is anywhere, honestly. I check everything. I'm on Instagram a lot. That's where you can consume most of my content on Instagram. And it's just my name, Patrice, middle initial K, Cokley. But if you put my first and last name in, I'll pop up as well. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm somewhat on TikTok. I'm just there, but I'm not posting content on there yet. It's just TikTok. I'm not going to be doing any dances like that. I'll just probably repurpose some content over there. But the best place would be Instagram. And then you can find me on the website, the BasslineGroup.com or PatriceKCokley.com. Anywhere. And Google and reach out. Just Google me and reach out, and I'll get it.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, thanks again for joining us today, and I really appreciate the chat. And I hope you have a good rest of your day.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. You too.